Hi, everybody. Welcome to the new normal. I'm your host, Lisa Davis, aka Litecoin Lisa, and today I wanted to get some more facts out there. We live in a world of conspiracy theories and mainstream media sending information around, and I think now is the time more than ever to talk to your neighbors, ask your neighbors. And I just found out that one of my friends that I do, that I'm on a couple shows with him, and he shares a lot of information with me about technology and cryptocurrency, different things, blockchain. But I also found out that he is a Navy veteran and actually was part of building the USS Nitsy. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm sure he'll correct me. And that is the ship that's off Turkey that there have been all these rumors swirling around, whether it had a harp on it or caused these earthquakes, any of these kind of things. So I thought, what better to get it right from the source? So get some information, get some facts out there, and let everybody decide for themselves. So be right back right after this with Distant. Welcome back to the show. How are you?
Hey, how are you, Lisa? Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm
Interesting,
good.
interesting topic, and thanks for inviting me to come talk about my ship a little bit.
Yeah, when I saw all the information stories, people talking about it, what this ship, and so I was like, oh, I know a Navy guy. So I sent you the link. You're like, that's my ship. That's the ship I built.
That's the
So I
one,
thought, what
absolutely, yeah.
better than to have you come on and talk to us about. I know. So when were you? First of all, how do you pronounce it? I don't know if I was pronouncing it
Sure,
correctly.
yeah. So it is pronounced Nitsa. Nitsi is a
Nitsa.
common pronunciation, but it's named after Paul H. Nitsa, who was a big part of what do you call it? The end of the Cold War, like chilling everybody out a little bit and getting some treaties signed between Russia and the USA. And so it was named after him. And interestingly enough, it was one of the very few ships that was christened after a living person. So he actually attended the christening and was there in Bath Iron Works up in Maine when it was being built. And that's where I started with the Nitsa. I'm a plank owner, which means I was there helping get it ready in the shipyards. And I lived on it before it could float.
That's cool.
In the yards.
So this was this back in 2012? When was that you were involved in building the ship?
Yeah, so I was in the Navy for about 10 years, between 2003 and 2012. And so my time on the Nitsa would have been 2004 until I eventually went to a different command in 2009. So between 2004 and 2009, I deployed on her 3 times. Once with Russia, interestingly enough, back when we were trying to be friends with them.
Seems like a good idea.
Yeah, that was actually one of my favorite experiences, just getting to know them as people and having an American ship and a Russian ship, playing nice together. We were up in Norway, and then once in the Persian Gulf and once in Somalia. So yeah, that's a compressed timeline of when I was involved.
So tell us a little bit about the ship as far as the use case or type of ship that it is in the Navy. Is that a thing? Like I would suspect that that's a thing, that there's different ships for
100%.
different purposes. What kind of purpose did this ship serve?
Sure. So she's an Arleigh Burke Flight 2 Alpha class ship is how I guess you would specifically classify it. It's a destroyer, a DDG. You'll see ships named things like DDG in a number or CG in a number. A destroyer is a DDG. A cruiser is a CG. Those are very similar in their roles. One's a little bit bigger than the other one. Can hold more armaments, I guess, and more people. but they have a similar role. And then you have things like, of course, the aircraft carriers and the amphibious ships that carry also aircraft and Marines and stuff like that. But the destroyers are either part of a fleet that's with an carrier strike group, or out on their own doing independent missions. Yep, there she is. So that's DDG 94. You can see on the pointy end there, it says 94.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I haven't actually looked up pictures of that ship in a while. Like I said, I was out of the Navy in 2012, and that's like, it seems like a whole different life to me at this point.
I bet.
Looking back, it was only a decade ago, but it was a different life. But yeah, that's it. I'm a Tomahawk tech. I'm a Tomahawk cruise missile technician. So that's specifically what my role was there. I was in weapons department. And I earned my surface warfare specialist qualification. I qualified for that while I was there, which means I learned everything I could possibly learn about that ship, and then passed a board to make sure I knew my shit.
It's a ship to be used in times of war. It's
It is a warship. It is absolutely a warship. Yep.
Does it have any special communications capabilities or?
Oh yeah. That was something I was pretty heavily involved with, actually, because part of my job with Tomahawk involved planning with other ships that we were out at sea with, and that we were operating with, and also just sending and receiving mission data and stuff like that. So there's a bunch of satellite communications. There's all kinds of different stuff. There's satellite communications. There's HF. There's UHF. There's VHF. There's all the different Fs. There is basically, like, it's capable of basically everything that the Navy has a network for. It's got an antenna for it.
And would this ship be used for more of like a defensive move, or is it more of like the gun? Is it the threat?
That was interestingly, we always competed. It's a 500 and some odd foot ship with 300 sailors on it.
Wow.
And you're out at sea, and you find things to compete with each other just to pass the time. One of the things was, what's the ship really here for? That's a great question,
Mm-hmm.
because an engineer might say that, well, my main engines, without them, the ship's nothing, so we are the ship. But I was a Tomahawk tech, so we like to say, well, your main engines are there to drive my missiles around, because we are the offensive weapon, and we are the reason this ship is here. But then you would maybe talk to other, like the technicians that would take care of the radars and the SMs, the standard missiles that were defensive in nature. Arguably, in my opinion, the most important role would just be to safeguard. Like, think about what's happening right now in the world. Mm-hmm. I feel a little bit better knowing that there's something like the USS Nitsa sitting in the Atlantic between the US and Russia, just in case there's an intercontinental an ICBM launched or something to intercept missiles in the air. So that is a capability.
Things in the air. Okay.
Yeah, defensively, it can protect. It's just as capable to protect assets as it is to destroy your opponent's assets. It's probably a pretty objective way to say that, I guess, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm trying to get as much information out to people as far as like the capability of it, what the intention, like why it would be sitting off the coast of Turkey. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are speculating that it had some kind of device on it, HARP or whatever, that caused these earthquakes. Do you see that as being any kind of possibility?
So I really don't. I looked into that a little bit. I was a little surprised, and I was curious enough to look into it. I don't think so. I don't, unless something happened when I left and there was a huge retrofit that I'm not aware of. There was never any HARP equipment on board, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number one, I don't know if it would fit. Like you need a huge array of like, I want to say it's like HF antennas or something, but there's a lot of them that goes into an array. And I wanted to say I think this might be where the misconception, I think it is a misconception, is my opinion anyway.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think maybe where that came from is HARP uses something called phased array to kind of like direct where their beam is pointing to focus it on a certain point in the
Okay.
atmosphere when they're doing their research. The NHTSA has, okay, stay right there, actually.
Oops. Okay,
Go
hold
back.
on. Sorry. Let me wrong way. There we
The
go.
NHTSA has it's called a spy radar system, but it's SPY as an acronym. It doesn't mean it's there to spy on anything.
Okay.
So on the left, right above, if you look at the letter U on USS NHTSA and then go straight up, there's like a panel, looks like a shield
Yes.
on it. Yeah, that right there. So that's one of 4 phased array radar things, right? And so since it's using a similar technology, phased array, as what HARP uses, phased array, I think that might be the tie-in where people are thinking, oh, it's the same thing, right? So that's nothing to do with HARP. What a phased array is let's see if I can see another one up there. Well, you know the classic radar, it spins around, right?
Yeah, let me see if I can find it.
And you see it in movies and stuff where you see the radar sweep and it has
like
the bleeps
these?
and the bloops. And well, that's a dish.
Just a dish. It would be more up here.
It would be more of it looks like a bar that spins or something like that. You know, people are pretty used to that. And in movies, you see radars as a sweeping motion where you see it go around this, a circle. So what a phased array does is instead of mechanically moving it around, you just electronically steer the beam and sweep it around so that you can find targets that way or detect things that way. And so that's where I think that people are getting their wires crossed, is that just because 2 different things use what's called phased array doesn't mean that they're anything similar to each other. Yeah, and as you can see, there's plenty of antennas up there.
Yeah, tons.
We can communicate.
Yes.
And they can listen to communications, and they can. There's all sorts of different. It's really it's an amazing ship. Honestly, it's capabilities wise, it can serve in so many different roles. Like really, whatever you need, it can be assigned to that role. We did everything from defense of oil platforms that were at sea in the Persian Gulf to piracy interdiction, where we would board pirate vessels looking for guns or drugs or people, sometimes, unfortunately, smuggling humans, things like that. Surveillance missions where we just tried to figure out where the bad guys are, that kind of thing, by parking off the coast and listening to comms, listening to whatever we could listen to.
How far can it listen to? What's the area that it needs to be? Because I'm thinking about like where Turkey is and where, what would the target be? Or
that'll probably be one of the things I won't say.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. I'm happy to talk about like what it can do capabilities wise in general, but that's a pretty specific question.
Okay.
And
so not the
I'm a little bit bound there. I won't do that.
Okay. So it can listen.
But
it can listen in the air.
Well, it can. Anybody who has the right equipment can pick up any sort of electronic information that's in the air. For example, I could get even like consumer stuff you can buy off the shelf. You can get what's called an SDR, or a software defined radio. And you can basically, with software, you can tune it into people's Wi-Fi or into people's cell phone communications or into like satellite comms, whatever frequency ranges you want. Now, you're not going to be able to listen into them unless you have the correct like encryption keys and stuff like that.
Okay.
But basically, like, think about how much is wireless communication today.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Everything's wireless. So everything's just kind of like in the air, which is why I'm such a big encryption proponent. Like everybody should encrypt everything, because otherwise you're just saying, I don't care who listens to my, I don't know, banking transactions or something.
Okay, well, I had a and I'm curious hearing you say that, because I do respect your opinion on all this. I know you have so much knowledge about this. I had another person say that they were at oh goodness, something in London, and I can't remember the specific thing, but something very important anyway. And they were with these security people, and they said, if you want to make sure that they are reading your stuff, encrypt it, because they read everything encrypted, and they're the ones that created the encryption software. And so you're almost safer to just use open software kind of things, but just don't use trigger words.
I would say, so to that, I would say that's a pretty generalized statement,
Okay.
and I wouldn't agree with it. What I would agree with is that I would use open standards as, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is a lot of companies and a lot of solutions will try to just roll their own crypto or create their own encryption, and maybe it's proprietary, maybe you're not allowed to know how it works, and that's always suspicious to me.
Okay.
Because whoever made it could put a backdoor in it, for example, that kind of thing. So if you're choosing, like, I would use Signal before I used WhatsApp, just because Signal open sourced their encryption and WhatsApp is Facebook, right? So in theory, they're both, end-to-end encrypted ish. I think Signal still has a server like in the UK or something where it all goes through, but it's just a matter of, like, use stuff where everyone's allowed to look at it, because if there's nothing to hide, why not put it out there for everyone to look at?
Doesn't have to be hidden in the dark. Yeah.
So it should be open source. It should have been around for a while, so it's battle tested. If it's somebody saying, no, use this, it's fine, but you can't look at the source code because it's a secret. Well, maybe there's something in there.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah, I love getting your feedback on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but overall, I would say that's operating in the clear versus using encryption. Using encryption is not going to hurt you. Sure, maybe the traffic looks different. So if you want to think, okay, if you think that somebody is targeting you, who knows what they're doing, and watching all of your internet traffic, maybe it looks different than stuff that's just in the clear. But I don't know, that's getting into the weeds. And unless you're like somebody that a nation state is targeting, I don't see where that's like even relevant kind of thing.
Yeah. Very interesting. So on the ship, I'm wondering, would you say it's more of a communications?
No, I would say that
it really is more the
I would say that it's an offensive. It's a worship. It is a weapons forward.
So it would be a way for the U.S. to look strong at a point of in time of war, and take a position and say, like, we're we have our weapons out. We're not sitting back. We're ready to protect ourselves or whatever.
Yep, that's something that you might hear called like force projection or something like that, or we would do things like called freedom of navigation stuff, where if a certain country would say, no, you can't sail ships through here, we would say, yes, we can. Come and stop us. A lot of that is posturing. A lot of that is just but you know what, that leads into what I wanted to talk about with Turkey, with why it might have been there, which is that, number one, the timing with the earthquake and stuff like that. Not only do I think that it had nothing to do with the Nitsa, even if it did have a HARP system on it that I didn't know about somehow, I don't think HARP can do that. I just don't
Yeah,
think
because
that.
my understanding HARP was more weather or, but I haven't done a lot of research on it.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on HARP by any means, but it like heats up part of the atmosphere so that they can study what happens when they fuck with it, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
They use it to, like, but it's like they're focusing it on like 50 miles up kind of thing, like where you would see aurora borealis and stuff like that, where it's already being manipulated by stuff that's bombarding Earth all of the time. I think it's harmless personally. And I surely don't think that it can cause earthquakes. But again, I don't know. Maybe I'm not an expert in that, and I just don't know. But that's
It
I know
just
quite a bit
seems,
about the
yeah,
ship
it
though, and
doesn't
there's no
go.
HARP
That's
on
where I
there.
really wanted to bring you on to talk about the ship, because I was like, he would know if that was even something capable. And Greg brought up a point and said, like it's not tethered to the ground or has, which I guess with radio waves, maybe there's a theory there that the radio waves or some kind of wave could emit from the ship to cause something like that. But it was pretty significant
Yeah.
earthquakes. My mom brought up a good point
Yeah, for
too.
sure. The earthquakes were significant.
Yeah, she said that 48 hours before the quake, that animals were reacting and stopped eating,
Oh,
which sounds very natural. Like animals can sense things that are
yeah.
going to happen, not like somebody pulling a trigger. The animals wouldn't
Yeah.
know that that was going to happen, but they could tell the earth was changing before. So that makes you think that it is a natural
And also
occurrence.
the timing of the ship being there right before the earthquake kind of thing. You could probably look at a lot of events and then look around from the epicenter of that event and find a US something somewhere around
That
there.
just arrived.
Because well, but we're just, one of the things the USA does is just puts its nose in everything. And we've always got ships kind of all over the place. And we've got assets distributed across the globe, um, all the time, kind of. You know what I mean? There's always ships out there. So I think my theory is that literally they were just there for a port call, because we would find any excuse we could possibly find to pull into port somewhere, because we would be out at sea for like 2 months without seeing land, and we'd just be like, oh, can we just go in for a minute? you know
Yeah, I'm
so
sure.
we
Yeah.
went to, and on the same ship, when I was on her, we went to Israel for several days, and it was cool. We toured Jerusalem. We um, got out, stretched our legs a little bit, took on stores, got some more food, some more fuel, that kind of thing. And while we were there, there was like a there was some sort of bombing at a shopping center where somebody blew up a bus or something,
Mm.
right? And like, I don't think we caused that, but it was a big tragedy that happened while we were there. And I think that's
So,
what happened in Turkey, is they were probably there as a normal port call to to
mhm,
to replenish stores, or to go to the bar, or whatever have you.
yeah, whatever.
And it just unfortunately there was an earthquake.
So in a case like that, do you then become kind of a mercy mission, or has that ever happened where you were in port somewhere, something happened like that, and the
Not
U.S. took on, not took people on necessarily, but used
mhm.
their resources to help the place that they were at, or did you
not
get
not not
involved in any of
necessarily,
that?
no.
No.
Because you got to, we're an outside, we're not them kind of
Yeah.
thing, and they have their own emergency services, and they handle their own stuff. Now, yeah, if there's something needed that we can do, absolutely. Think
That's
about,
where I just
could
was wondering, like, if it could have been like part of a humanitarian thing, like when you talk
mm,
about the trafficking, that you guys were at one point stopping some of that. Could it be something like that, that they're over there and maybe some of that was being stopped, and that's why this ship was there, because they were part of stopping that.
yeah,
Um,
probably not, because that just doesn't seem like a mission that would be in the Mediterranean
okay.
area, to me. Like, we passed through the Mediterranean on our way to, like the Horn of Africa or the Persian Gulf or Somalia or something like that.
It's
Maybe
not
maybe the
necessarily
Black Sea these days a little more often, apparently,
okay.
that's a different thing. But we stopped in Cyprus, we stopped in Israel, we stopped in Greece, Italy, Albania, uh, Malta, all around the Mediterranean. And it was literally like, okay, we're passing through and we either need a rest or we need to take on more supplies or something, that kind of thing. So I think they were probably just there because, they're based out of Norfolk, Virginia. That
Okay.
ship is. So you think that's a long way. It'll take them a couple of weeks to get across the Atlantic into the Med. And they probably, I don't know which way they were coming or going. You know what I mean? They might have
Mhm.
just come through the Suez Canal, through the Red Sea, which is also like maybe take a break after that. So it was probably something like that. Yeah.
And they didn't get stuck.
And they didn't get stuck. We got stuck once, not us,
Oh,
but
really?
not physically stuck, but the Suez Canal workers were on strike. And so we were stuck effectively for a couple of days with a bunch of cargo ships waiting to go through the Suez. Because if you don't go through the Suez Canal and through the Red Sea, you
Mhm.
have to go all the way down around
The Horn of
the
Africa,
Cape. Yeah,
the Cape.
around the
Yeah.
bottom of Africa.
Wow.
And that's a much, much longer journey. So yeah, a lot of interesting
Very interesting.
experiences there
Yeah.
with that ship. And I've been probably in every, except for some of the voids and gas tanks and stuff, I've been in probably every space, every fan room, everything. Think about 5 years, you'll find new things. Like you'll find ways to entertain yourself. And sometimes it's as simple as, I've never been in there before. Let's go check that out.
So yeah, you told me a story about, and I can't remember all the details of it, but it was about communications. This was back when Facebook was first new or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
like it used to be really expensive for you guys to call home,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
then Facebook came out and you were able to like call home, and how that changed. So how did communications change for you during, or
Mm-hmm.
how did the technology rolling out kind of change for you during your time?
Yeah, it's funny. It was I I first saw Facebook uh, whenever we have a ship's library, and there's like a computer in there, and somebody was messaging on Facebook with her family, and I was like, "What do you got there? You got a chat room? What's going on?" And she was like, "Oh, I'm on Facebook. I'm messaging my family on Facebook." And this is when, like, at that time, it was pretty common, probably still is common. I don't know what they've got today, but
Mhm.
we'd buy an AT&T phone card, and there was a little phone in the um, call it the cafeteria, I guess. Anyway, there's a phone where you can take turns putting in your AT&T phone card and
Oh my
calling
God.
home for however many minutes you bought. That's the wardroom. That's where I actually worked in there for a little bit too. I had a bunch of different roles on that ship. Everybody kind of does everything because um,
I thought
getting off track, but I did a
I
whole
know,
bunch of
I
different
know. I
stuff
was
on
gonna
there.
say that
Yeah.
led into another story where you were talking about like you guys had, it wasn't always the same job, or you would,
Yeah.
get pulled off of you even didn't you guys protect Gitmo for a while or something?
No,
While
that was unrelated.
Oh, okay.
I got orders to Guantanamo Bay after this. So after the NHTSA, I was a tech rep for Tomahawk for cruise missile. I would go help ships. So when I was working, if I was on when I was on the ship and we couldn't figure out a problem, we would call in these tech reps to come help us out. And so when I left the ship, I went to work for them as a tech rep. And during that time, I got orders to Guantanamo Bay. But it had nothing to do with the NHTSA. No.
Yeah,
Um,
okay. Interesting.
but yeah, that's where I found out about Facebook, and it was actually useful back then. And I was able, and it became popular for that reason because people could kind of send. It was email or pay for a phone call, but then
To
Facebook
reach your
came around
phone.
and it was like, oh, we can use Facebook now too, that kind of thing. And it was slow, super slow internet connection. It wasn't even very fast.
So were you able to video through Facebook back then?
No, 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 no.
No.
It was
You could at
like
least send
when I
messages.
say email, I mean like email, not sign into if you were gonna log into your Yahoo email, you might as well get a cup of coffee, walk away, and
It
come
was
back.
gonna be a while.
It's gonna load.
Wow.
It's gonna load for a bit. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. We were using back then we were using it was called MRSAT. which is an old satellite communications network, and they got what's called SHF, another F, super high frequency, which helped things out. It's like basically getting a broadband connection
Okay.
after having dial-up for so long. So
Yeah.
it's a better situation today.
To change all that.
Yeah,
That's
but
cool.
no, that was why Facebook was cool, was because you could keep up with people that you were disconnected from,
While you're
that kind of
away.
thing.
Yeah.
That changed. Facebook is no longer cool, but
Well, it's MySpace first, then Facebook,
yeah.
then that's just for old people and
But
their
yeah,
dogs
that's
and
the
things.
bridge. That's the bridge right there. Plenty of
I was asking, is this where you have a story about at night you would go up
yeah.
and
You
off
remember
the
that?
side of the
How many
bridge?
times have I talked to you? You remember some stories? Okay.
Yeah. Off the side of the bridge, you would
Yeah.
go out to this one area and because you'd be out in the middle of the ocean, there's no lights. You can see the stars so well. And
Beautiful. It's beautiful out there. Yeah. So typically what I would do is I would work inside the ship. Sometimes I wouldn't go outside the ship for days. I would try not to go a week. But I was in weapons department, but we were kind of like the computer nerd branch of weapons department, if you want to look at it that way. And so a lot of times when I would be on watch, I would be in the center of the ship in this NCIC, in the Command Information Center, where all the hub of decision making is located. So I would be in there, and I would be like, maintaining databases or watching a radar or passing the time because it was 2 a.m. and nothing was going on, that kind of thing.
mhm.
And so what I would commonly do once I got off of watch is, I'm drinking coffee all night, trying to stay up, don't fall asleep at watch, that kind of thing. And so when you get off of watch, you're amped, you're hyped up. Sometimes you're tired, you just go to sleep
Yeah,
for a
if
few
you've
hours,
been
but usually you got to wind down because you've been keeping yourself up and awake for a long time
alert. Yes.
and alert. And so I would go here, I would walk up to the bridge, and I would typically go out to the bridge wing, which is on the left. And if you see behind this guy with a beanie cap on
Yeah.
over his shoulder, that's a hatch
Back
that leads out to the
over the
starboard.
store.
That would be the starboard bridge wing. And there's
Okay.
one behind the camera as well. And so I would go out there. The port bridge wing was mine. I say that because of a lot of reasons, but one of my jobs was a gunner. Whenever we were pulling in and out of port, I would go up to the port bridge wing, grab my Rambo gun and belt of ammunition, load it up, and make sure nobody tried to run up
Wow.
on, with like a small craft loaded full of explosives or whatever it was, just in case.
Yeah.
I also, it's a different story, but there was anyway, I won't tell that story. Maybe later. I would go up there at night though, just to listen to the waves and watch the stars and talk to the lookout. There's always a lookout, one on each bridge wing.
Okay.
And so, yeah, a lot of times I would go up to the bridge wing and just chill for a while until I decided to want to go to bed, look at the stars, check out Saturn. It was always something I like to look at because you could actually see the rings of Saturn. If
Cool.
we had these huge binocular type things called the big eyes. And they're used to look like at the horizon
Out in
kind of
the
thing.
ocean. Yes.
But if you point them up in the sky, you could actually barely make out like the rings of Saturn if it was at the right angle. So
That's very cool.
yeah, really unique experiences, when
Yeah.
you're in the middle of the ocean with no
When-
cities around and no
With
lights on.
300 guys and you're bored out of your mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's really cool that you guys, adjusted, used what you had. And then, like you said, whether it was having the conversation of who's got the most important job, whose ship is this really,
Mhm.
or, what else can we use this tool for? That's really cool.
Yeah. So I was Tomahawk Tech. I've shot the 5-inch gun on the front. The big gun on the front. I've fired that thing. Yep. The little squares behind it is where my missiles would be. The Tomahawks
here?
and would all be in there. I was expert in the rifle and pistol, expert marksman, sharpshooter, qualified, so I could do that really well. I was
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know that. So
all
one
kinds
of
of
the
stuff.
things I want to do on the show is talk more about, we're big supporters of Second Amendment, and we teach all of our kids to shoot, and I protect myself with a concealed carry. Actually, it's constitutional carry here in Oklahoma. I don't even have to worry about that. But
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, but that's one of the things I'd like to bring more education about firearms, and also people's personal experiences. Like, I'm kind of a one-hit wonder girl. Like, I like my Glock and I just stick with my Glock and I'm comfortable with it. And when we practice, I believe practicing is important so that you stay proficient, so that if you do have to use it, you're comfortable with it. It's
Yeah.
kind of like education. If you don't have the knowledge, you can't protect yourself.
I think there's nothing wrong with having your favorite tool. And if your favorite gun is a Glock and that's what you're comfortable with, I know plenty of people who say, if I can't get it done with my 9mm, I can't get it done.
Right.
Meaning, like, if I need bigger weaponry, I'm going to have to call in the cavalry. It's not going to be
I'm
me.
gonna need some help. Maybe one of these.
Yeah, that's I think that's probably the 20 20mm cannon. That thing looks cool, right?
That looks cool.
Yeah. I wasn't so that one I didn't have a lot of experience with. I was mainly on the 50 caliber,
Okay.
the BMG. Sometimes just a single barrel, but sometimes the double barrel one, we'd have two of them together. I don't know if there's a picture of that one on there
I
or not.
don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just really cool. But yeah, so I'd like to talk more about some of that as well. Talk about, oops, that's the same picture.
Yeah. So you think, it's a big ship, but there's a bunch of small boats out there too. So a lot of those that you see are just kind of like around the perimeter of the ship. It's there just in case. If you're going through the Suez Canal, you're confined to a canal. You're vulnerable.
You're very
vulnerable.
vulnerable.
So this is where you would have people standing up on these weapons on the perimeter on the outside of the ship, just in case. Just in case there was somebody who was trying to think, oh, they're vulnerable. Let's use small craft when they're not expecting it. That kind of thing. There you go, right there on the front. You can see them. They're tiny looking in this photo, but there's two of them. One at the very tip up there, and one on the right. Those are the 50 calibers. Yeah. And they've got little shields on the bottom to protect your knees.
Okay. Oh, wow.
In case you're getting shot at. Yeah.
They think of everything.
Just in case. Yeah. And that actually, you see that round thing
This?
between the two? Yeah. That's the LRAD. You ever hear of an LRAD?
I've never heard of that.
Long range acoustic device. It yells at people. It's a focused beam of sound and you have a microphone. And it reaches from freaking like miles. We tested it on our on our master at arms. We put him out in a boat, and then we're like, hey, let us know how loud this is.
Wow.
And it was freaking loud, like a mile
so that you
out.
could communicate with other ships, or
tell them to get the hell away. Yeah, I would much rather hurt someone's ears than shoot them. You know what I mean? We don't want to shoot people. We don't want to get violent.
Yeah.
So, that was used a lot of times just to get people out of the way. Hey, really yellow sailboat, move.
We're going to run over you. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Well, I really appreciate it. I knew you were the right guy to bring some more information.
Anytime. I'm happy to talk about my experiences and stuff. I haven't talked about them in years, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah. And it's great for people to this is where we get the truth out. And by actually going to the source, the person that was there or has been there, or was part of building it, and getting real information, and then just having a conversation about it. We don't have to always have to click the link from Google or be told from the Google gods. We can all be critical thinkers and be a community and, find information and we're creating new truth and history when we have these conversations. So I appreciate
thanks for doing that. I think that's important too. There's a lot of focus on telling people that they should only listen to certain sources of information and not others, which sometimes there's something to that, but at the same time it was and I got a lot of inspiration. This is not too off topic, but I got a lot of inspiration for the mentality of basically being willing to read everything, even shit you disagree with, or even things that maybe just misleading or even things that may be deliberate misinformation or something like that, just to see what people are saying. I got some of that from one of the intelligence specialists that I worked with on that ship. Because one of the things I would do would be hide in one of the top secret spaces just so people wouldn't bother me to get out of work. Because I was one of the few people that had a high enough clearance to be in a couple of the spaces. So I would just be like, I got shit to do, but really I wanted to take a nap. But I'd hang out and talk to the intelligence guys. And one of them was, I remember one time he was going off. He was mad about a new policy where that came out of the radio room from somewhere, that everybody had to sign this new policy where we weren't allowed to use the computers to read any of Al-Qaeda's blogs or any of Al-Qaeda's like propaganda websites and stuff like that, because they were using, probably still are, but they were using the internet to recruit people, to radicalize people and stuff like that. And they were like, oh, we can't have our sailors reading that shit.
Wow.
And he was like,
you weren't
pissed.
capable of protecting your
number one, you calling us idiots? Come on.
Yeah.
And number two, he said, more importantly, these people are trying to kill me. I want to know what they are saying.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Don't tell me I can't know what people who are trying to kill me are saying, because I need to be prepared. And I was like, Ron, his name was Ron. That's a good point, man. I'm going to take that with me. And I did. So today I read stuff that's terrible just so I know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I think that's great. And having a conversation about it with somebody. I mean, that's where you and I came together through Satoshi Sean introduced us. And I joined you guys on World Blockchain Roundtable. And then I've been able to see you on and join you. And I will get back to crashing your Wednesday morning on Den.social, Coffee with Den. Those are great.
Open to anyone.
Great information. And you are always so open about, like, I have strong opinions and you know that. And, but you'll also like share facts and information and just say, have you considered this? Or just being open to everything. And I really have a lot of respect for that. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I hope more people can take that mentality of just, communicating with people they disagree with instead of yelling at them.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't have to, not everything has to be taken so personal.
And importantly, not everyone has to agree. I don't think people should try to convince everyone to agree with them, Yeah,
that would be a boring world. Because
it's not going to happen, and you're just wasting energy. You should just, worry about you. So yeah, I agree. It's a privilege to know you. So I'm glad I met you.
Oh, thanks. I feel the same way. It's a great world. My magical internet friends make my day, my day better, my world better. And I'm really grateful for the work that you do, trying to build a better future with blockchain, all the work you put into Den.social and the information that you shared with me about blockchain as well. So thank you. We will, where can everybody see you? I guess I told them Wednesday mornings on Den.social.
Cat's out of the bag now. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's all right. Yeah. I do a show on Wednesday. I say it's a show. It's a meetup. It's a coffee meetup.
Yeah.
So where in real life you might meet people for coffee and just talk about whatever's going on that week for you guys, just to catch up. We do that virtually Wednesday mornings in a section of Den called Coffee with Den. So there's a layer called Coffee with Den. If you find that, subscribe to it. You'll see my posts whenever they come up.
We'll see.
And at 9 a.m. Wednesday mornings, 9 a.m. Eastern. So that would be 6 Pacific if you're on the West Coast. That is up. Scroll down to C for coffee
with Den.
Yep. And right now there's a post up asking people. Well,
I'm on the wrong one.
No, that's fine. So you're right. Yeah. In this layer, there'll be posts that are just casual conversation. And then there'll be posts that are Coffee with Den posts. So if you scroll 2 down past Jacob Wayne, boom, right there. So that next week topic is me asking for input. What should the topic be? We don't always discuss the topic, but there always is. There always is a topic.
If I show up. Yes.
And that post will become the next one.
Sean's boys to come on. if
Oh
they're
yeah, true.
because
Yeah.
they do all that
Todd
gaming.
or whatever his name is. Yeah.
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 Mhm.
I'll shout them out. The social nerds. If you're into
The
gaming, they
social
have a
nerds. Yeah.
gaming channel. But anyway, this will have that post will have a link to join the next call, and it's open to the public, and anybody can pop in and talk about whatever you want. And if you leave a reply, I will actually give you ownership of that layer. I hand out the layer ownership tokens, which lets you vote on stuff, but more importantly, it's like it gives you literal ownership of that layer.
And so then when there's voting issues and stuff, you get
Mhm,
to have a say. You get to say like
mhm.
what the topic is or whatever your opinion matters because you have lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I'm
you get a cut of any reward token that is earned in that layer as well.
there you
So
go.
good stuff. But
Good.
yeah, check me out Wednesday mornings at 9.
Yeah. And then you're with me on World Blockchain Roundtable
Yep.
Thursday mornings at what is it? What would
It's
that be?
11 Eastern,
Okay,
10
11.
Central,
Yeah, it's 10 Central.
8 a.m. I guess Pacific. Trying to do
Yeah.
simple math in my head right now, but I was having an issue.
And that you
Uh,
can find here on Den.social as well.
mhm.
I don't know how to do the shortcut thing.
Yeah, if you're on a computer, you can always Control F to find. There's a lot of layers,
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, we do need to make it to where it's more easily searchable, because the more
Control.
layers we get, the longer that list gets.
Yeah,
Yep.
I didn't know about the Control F thing. That's
Mhm.
good to know. So then this shows this one's going to be amazing. The umbrella
Yeah,
white
that's
paper
with
promise. That's with I am
mhm.
for I am. He's in the chat right now.
Yep.
Um,
That is a really interesting concept from somebody who knows what he's talking about. And, it's both complex and simple, because simply it is a way to get accountability back into representation. Um, and the complexity can be, under the hood. It doesn't have to, people don't have to understand the full complexity of how a DAO operates or how a blockchain
right.
operates or any of that stuff. So read up on that if you're
Yeah.
interested in. I think that your audience probably is interested in how to
They
fix
would love this.
governance.
This is a
Yeah.
way, it's about fixing governance, which may
Yeah.
help the government.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, what if we went from government to governance? That would be really great, you know?
Yeah. The decentralized governance thing is fascinating to me. I've always been super interested in how different things work and different countries operate and different governments and stuff. One of my favorite things in the Navy was like when we went somewhere just to meet the locals. How do you live? What's normal here? What's interesting, And so all of this recent push for decentralization and the capabilities that, yeah, right now it's mostly being used for like financial transactions and things like that. But you don't have to just use it for that. You can actually apply it to a lot of stuff, including securing, I was going to say governance, but like elections and voting and stuff like that, like things that are
Right.
not money, but are just as important, if not more important than the money. And so that tends to be where I focus all of my energy. It's probably why I'm not crypto rich. If I had been focusing on just the money part of it, I probably would have had more wealth.
Yeah.
But all the other stuff, all the like fundamental changes that are coming in the way that the internet operates, that in the end, I don't think people will be calling it Web3 or blockchain or cryptocurrency. It'll just be the internet,
It'll just go
I,
back to that simple. That
yeah, it'll just
this
be,
is the new internet.
yeah. For a while when Web 2 came around, Web 2 was thrown around a lot. And
Oh,
every
wow.
new startup company had to remove a vowel from the end of their name to be a Web 2 name company for some reason. That was a thing. It was a
That's where the
trend. Yeah.
misspelling came from.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes me crazy. Somebody was telling me something about, oh, this project and I said, is it spelled crypto way or is it spelled proper English? And they were like, oh no, it's not. It's spelled
Yeah.
crypto way.
It's
Like,
spelled funny. Yeah.
yeah. Like it was pseudo and it was like SUDO. I was like, oh, okay, of course.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I think is going to happen again. Right now it's Web3 because Web3 is a useful term to just compress what you're talking about into a term. To say basically, I'm talking about the internet, but I'm talking about this new thing that where the internet is going, right? To differentiate what you're talking about from the Web 2 stuff. But the Web 2 stuff just became the internet again, the web. And so Web 3, I think, is the same thing. It's going to be called
the same thing.
Yeah, it'll be so common that when you look at something built the old way, it'll be looking like, oh man, that's like a website from the 90s. What the crap, that kind of thing. So it'll be helpful. I think it'll be helpful when all that terminology just sort of fades away, where people will know what it means and what it is, but it's not used like buzzwords, and it's not necessary to use them because now people just assume that's what you're using if you're using the internet.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about. Like, people are always like, when the future or when this is going to happen. Well, you're in it right now.
Right now.
You just don't acknowledge it.
Right now. Yeah.
You're numb to it. So
yeah. And it's the most interesting part because it's the time that everybody can have the most influence in it if they want to. During the development and the emergence of a new way of operating and a new normal, right? A new normal for the internet. While that's emerging is the time that everybody gets to direct the ship and steer the ship.
And the more you participate, the more weight you have. The lot tokens.
And if you're not participating, somebody else is, and they may not have the same ideals as you. So you might want to get your opinion in there and steer it the way that you want it while you can. So that's what I'll say there is get involved.
That's a great way to end the show. So get involved so you can steer the ship of the future of the internet. So
I like it.
Thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate you. You guys take care. Make sure to give us a like and share the video, get this information out there, and have a conversation with your neighbor.